Dat Discussion, a New Orleans Saints podcast where we talk about all Saints news, opinions, and reactions. So before we get into some Saints Bengals and also some Saints news as the Saints signed wide receiver Brandon Marshall, I just wanted to say if you like this podcast and haven't followed our various platforms, you can follow us on Twitter at the Who Dat Dis, on Instagram at Who Dat Discussion, on Podomatic at the Who Dat Discussion, and then also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Google Play channel, and our Spotify channel at the Who Dat Discussion. And on those sites, please like, comment, rate us, and review us because, it would just give us more feedback. And, we've gotten a lot of feedback from the Who Dat Nation, a lot of positive feedback, to see what we're doing good, what we maybe need to work on, all that fun stuff that you guys can do, and just to help this podcast grow. And, that'd just be really helpful for me. But with all that said, I think we should get right into some Saints news. As today, the Saints signed wide receiver Brandon Marshall to a one-year veteran deal here. And, this year, Brandon Marshall, kind of iffy. He's played 7 games before he got released by the Seattle Seahawks. He had 11 catches for 136 yards and 1 touchdown. In his career, Brandon Marshall has had 970 catches, 12,351 yards, and then also 83 touchdowns, which is, that's really, really good for him. He's played now about 13 years, so, he's just had a very, really solid career. In basically what he's done in 2007 to 2015, he was an elite receiver, really, really good. He did a lot of really good stuff. And then since 2015, not as good. With the Jets in 2016, he had 60 catches in 15 games, and the Giants only had 18 catches last year in 5 games, and then in 7 games with Seattle, 11 catches. So not really that much for him here. I think he could definitely be, maybe not the wide receiver 2, but I think he could be a good wide receiver 3 right now for our team. I think he's going to be really vital in the red zone and get some touchdowns opposite Michael Thomas. And I think what it will do, because now, you put him in the red zone, I think he'll get all his snaps in the red zone. Maybe he'll get some snaps in the middle of the field. I think he can be a good possession receiver as well. But he's going to get his snaps, I think, in the red zone. And his job is going to be going up one-on-one and trying to catch some touchdowns. And if he's successful at that, that's going to make Michael Thomas's job much easier because they're just double-teaming him in the red zone. So, if he's now getting one-on-ones because you have to respect Brandon Marshall, it makes it much better, for the Saints and, for Mike Thomas. That's going to open up a lot of more different ways the Saints could score. So I think it's a good move there. The Saints offense is already one of the best offenses in the league, if not the best offense, and I think it showed that against Cincinnati, but a really good job there. Also, I really like the Brandon Marshall signing. It really goes with it. I really like Keith Kirkwood. He's from Temple, undrafted free agent. His first game was this game because, we thought Dez Bryant, maybe would play, and we were going to bring up Kirkwood, just for 1 week, and then once Dez is healthy and ready to go, we would have played Dez. But, Dez obviously got injured, so Kirkwood is really up, I think, for a long time here. And I really like Keith Kirkwood. I think he could be a really solid receiver in this league. And just looking at it, he's a lot of athletic ability for his size. The way he can high point a ball, he has a high wingspan, so that's going to help him. So I really think that, Brandon Marshall can really help him become into a better receiver, and I think that, having Brandon Marshall is going to help Keith Kirkwood in return, so I think that could be big there. I still think we should keep Kirkwood in the offense, do not, get him out of the offense. 2 catches yesterday, 45 yards. If he can get that every game, that would be huge. Even without Brandon Marshall, but with Brandon Marshall, he can do that. I think Brandon Marshall is going to do a very similar thing. 2 to 3 catches, 50 yards, and if he can get a TD, that would be big for him there. But, that's a really only piece of Saints news. Just looking at it, the Saints right now, adding anyone else, I would have been fine if they didn't add Brandon Marshall, to be quite honest with you. Because right now, to me, this offense is amazing. Brandon Marshall's had some attitude issues, in the past. I think he's definitely past that. It went through a lot of years to change that, and finally he's changed that. He's been really good in the community, in the locker room. I think a lot of players respect him, so I think he'll be a good vet. He's never made the playoffs. That's kind of like the jinx that he puts on teams when he's on it. Hopefully it doesn't happen with us. But I think it's just something, he's got to look at. I think he wants to come onto this team. I think that's why it happened. I think Sean Payton's up and needed an extra receiver. Brandon Marshall said, I'm here. I can play. And, I think he's really the best free agent option out there. So I think we signed the best one there. And I think it's, mutual good stuff if he can be good. And if he's not that good and we start playing not so good, Maybe not even because of him, maybe because of his jinx. I think he'd be the first one out because, nothing can really mess up this chemistry for this team, and you can't let anything happen. 8-game winning streak riding high. To me, I wouldn't bring anyone in, but they bring Marshall in. I'm fine with that. We welcome Marshall in with, open hands. I wouldn't have been so surprised if we didn't bring in anyone, but we do bring in Marshall. I think it's a good signing. I think it could be, the product could be very, very good. But worst comes to worst, we cut him. It's just low risk, high reward. And, he could be an amazing receiver. If he even goes back to that Jets year where he had 60 catches in 15 games, so that means, he basically cut that in half. So if he had about 30 catches, and he had like 4 TDs, that would be very good in that amount of time. If he can get 4 to 5 TDs, that'd be, I think, really nice. I think he can do that. I think in the red zone he's going to get targeted a lot, and I think we'll see. With the Seahawks, and they have a much worse offense, he was still targeted about 3 times a game. So I think he'll have 4 to 5 targets probably if he can catch 2 or 3 of those. Hopefully more than half, and I think he'll be on the way to a pretty good season, and I think he'll be solid with us. I do not think that he's going to be ruin the culture of this team. I don't think his jinx, of how not making the playoffs, I don't think that will affect this team. I think it's just going to be good veteran leadership for this team, and not like we really needed his signing, but I think he does make this team better. I think we can be successful and, do what we want to do, achieve the goals that we want without him, but I think he does make this team better. So, I'll sign off on any move that makes this team better, and I think that, Brandon Marshall does make this team better. So, with all that said, I think it's time to get into some Saints-Bengals talk here. So, I'll get through some notes, then storylines, then our group-by-group recap. And the Saints completely demolished the Bengals here. I mean, nothing really you can say. 51-14, the Saints get the win here. The second quarter was obviously the big quarter for the Saints, where they scored 28 points. Amazing play all the way around. Just some notes. Drew Brees did pass Brett Favre for throwing the second most touchdown passes of all time. So congratulations to Drew. He had 3 touchdowns passing, and he also had 1 rushing where he jumped over the pylon. He's so good at that. So he was amazing in this game. Looking at his stats, just another MVP type game. It's 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks. QBR of 97, passer rating, of 150. That's what you just want to see, that kind of stuff. If he's going to do this game after game, I don't see us losing many games. 51 points. This is also, the first time the Saints put up over 50 points in a game, but it's the 5th time that the Saints put up over 40 in a game, so that's obviously, 5 times in 9 games is it's insane. For a team to do that, just, put that in perspective there. Just amazing stuff there. Also, Saints are now 5-0 on the road. First time they've been 5-0 on the road since 2009. I think that's obviously a great year. So, got to bring up that stat. First time the Saints have been over 500 on the road since 2011. So, just a lot of great stuff there. They only have 3 more road games, and they're all in a row when they go to the Cowboys. And then they play the Bucks, and then they go to the Panthers and play there. So 3 straight road games. That's our last 3 road games. I think all those games are pretty winnable on the road there. Then we also have 4 home games. That's the Eagles, Falcons, Panthers, and then also we play the Steelers at home. So, obviously now we have more home games than away games. I think that can, it's going to help us, because I think we do play better at home. But I think we're playing amazing on the road too, this year. Seems like we're a road team just as much as we're a home team. Dominating performance on the road. This reminds me a lot of the Buffalo game last year, and I think even more because, Buffalo is not as good as Cincinnati is. Cincinnati was 5-3 coming into this game. I know they're injury-riddled, and that was going to be a big thing for the Saints to take advantage, and I think they did. But still, they're 5-3. They've beat a lot of good teams, and we came in there and beat them. This moves the Saints to 3-0 in the AFC North, which is a really, really tough division, and to now, at least confirm a 3-1 finish, possibly 4-0 if we can beat the Steelers at our place. But going on the road twice against AFC North teams and coming out, victorious both of those games, it just shows a lot. It shows a lot about this team. It shows a lot about the coaching, how we're disciplined. Only 1 penalty in this game. That's another note, obviously a big note there. So, look, this team right now playing extremely good football. So that's obviously really, really big there. So now on to our storylines. We have 3 from the last episode. We'll obviously touch upon, see how that occurred with the Saints, and then also we'll talk about some new storylines that came out from the game. So a couple of the old storyline, that we talked about last Friday was, can we keep the momentum? Can we stop mixing? And then, can we feast, against Cincinnati, as they do not have a good secondary. And well, we kept the momentum on the road, pretty amazing. Winning 51-14 on the road is extremely impressive. I think this was the most impressive win by any NFL team this week. So, I think that was just a very impressive. Kept the momentum for sure. Stopping Mixon, we did pretty well because he was doing good, but he didn't get enough carries because they were behind so much, so they couldn't really give him the ball there. We stopped their wide receivers, without A.J. Green pretty easily, so that was obviously big. And then we completely feasted on the Cincinnati secondary and their linebacking core, which was out for injuries. Another storyline was coming in, to me, it was a big coming out of the game, is that Mark Ingram, he came up, had a great game in this one. I wanted to see how he played, and he had his first vintage performance of 2018, and I think it could continue. Just looking at it, I think that if he can play at this level and, with his leadership with Kamara and really the whole team, he's such a great leader. And then, if he could be that not bell cow, because they basically split carries, but if he can be a really good force with Kamara, as they were last year, where are you stopping this offense? I'd like to know, because if Mark Ingram's running like that, I think he had 13 carries, 104 yards, and then he also had a TV in the receiving end. I think he had over 160 yards from scrimmage. That's obviously amazing stuff. And if he can do this game after game with Kamara, there's nowhere you can stop this team right now. If he can run like that up the middle, and really help control the up the middle running, because Kamara's not as good as the up the middle running as he is in the zones and the pitches and stuff. And then you have Kamara doing all the great stuff he does. It makes this offense basically unstoppable. And obviously Michael Thomas and Drew Brees, to put on top of that. So if he's playing like that, it makes this team really good. So that was obviously really big there. And I think in playoff time, if we have to run the ball, especially if we ever play a playoff game on the road, having Ingram there, being able to run through the trenches and picking up the tough yards against the stacked boxes, that's going to be big for him there too. But, look, if he keeps on playing like this, he's going to be a really good player and a hard player to beat because, once he gets ahead of steam, he's gone. And he showed some runs. He wasn't as explosive as he was last year, and now we saw that explosiveness. And I think maybe it just took him a couple games since the, his suspension there. So, also, one more storyline from this game is the secondary bounced back and played a really good game. I know it wasn't against the best receivers, but 2 picks they had with Marcus Williams and Eli Apple also getting an interception. And then also, Marcus Lattimore played a good game against Tyler Boyd when he was on Boyd. And then when he wasn't on Boyd, look, this team, he didn't get beat at all. I didn't even hear Lattimore's name being called, in the whole game. Apple didn't play up to his standard until basically after the first drive. After the first drive, he played very, very well. First drive, he got beat by John Ross a few times, so that obviously wasn't good, especially for that touchdown. But then after that, he was really good. P.J. Williams, another great game. Give it to P.J. Williams, who really, and I know a lot of Saints fans don't like him, but the last 3 games, he's played very, very good football there. So Marcus Williams getting a pick, basically playing center field, had a really good run back there. And then also, Von Bell had some really nice tackles in this game, so really good for the secondary. They're getting better each week. Another week, they played better. I think this was their best game to date. I know it wasn't against the best receivers, but we'll take it. See what they can do next week against a good receiving core, with the Eagles. Golden Tate, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, players like that. I think that would be really big for them there. So just some quick injury updates in the injury report. Tyron Armstead did leave with a shoulder injury with the game. He was questionable to return and didn't return. Still no update on him, so I guess we'll see when they practice, see if he's limited, if he's going to be out for a long time, or is he just going to be playing through it. I think he's going to play through it. He's a really tough guy. Maybe it's bad, but I was listening to Deuce Wyndham last night, and he said that it's maybe not that good. He was kind of hinting towards it, but who knows? Shoulder injuries, they could be tough. But, if it's not that serious, I think Armstead will come up play good. But if he needs surgery or something like that, that would obviously be a big blow. Shout out to Jermon Bushrod, who played really, really, really good in his absence. But, especially he was playing with a heavy heart, and, he's playing very emotional. He played really good. So you got to give it to, Jermon Bushrod there. Breeze is used to Bushrod there, especially because he played about 6 years with Breeze, and they won a Super Bowl together. So that trust factor is definitely there with Breeze, I think it's just as much as Armstead, and he played really good, so you got to give it to him there. And they have some great pass rushers, and Bushrod still played really good. Armstead, I really hope he's healthy because I think we'll need him against some teams. But, maybe Bushrad's going to rise to the occasion and be a really good player here. But, I would like to see, hopefully, Teron Armstead's okay. And, he can come right back. Maybe not, if it's not next week, at least in the next couple of weeks, getting ready for December and January, if we play into January, which I hope so. And we're looking like we will. So I just don't want to jinx anything. But, I think we need Armstead. Not that we need him, but he'd be obviously a really big player, in January. Because even looking at the teams, the playoff teams right now, none of them really have great outside rushers. It's really the inside rushers that I have to worry a little about, so that's more of the interior offensive lineman, but still having a great left tackle, gives your quarterback, obviously, more time to throw, and just that blind side, if your quarterback is not, okay with having a bad left tackle, that's going to make him a little more jittery back there, looking behind him to see if anyone's coming behind. But now, with Armstead and I think Bushrod, I think the trust level with Breeze is still there, so I think that's really big there. So now on to our group-by-group preview. So the Saints here, it's basically almost A's all the way down here. Quarterback, A+. Breeze played out of his mind. Amazing here. What else do you want to say from Drew Brees right now? He's just been so good, and you got to give it to him. His stats were amazing. He had 3 touchdowns, no picks. Looking at his 88% completion percentage, that's just out of this world. Right now he's projected to have the best completion percentage of all time, and he would beat his old record by a long shot. MVP candidate, he's right there, and another MVP game for him. Got to give him an A+. Skill position players, you got to give him an A to an A+. Michael Thomas, amazing job. 8 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what you want to see from him. Running the ball, they had 245 yards rushing between Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill. All these guys, they did really, really good in this game. When you have that many yards rushing, it's going to be tough to beat. Also, Dwayne Washington had a pretty good game. In garbage time, he did pretty good. When they knew they were running the ball and Washington took up those carries, did a good job there. But between Ingram, Kamara, Thomas, obviously, Watson, I only think he had the 1 catch that wasn't a touchdown, but he did fine, did a good job blocking. Same with Josh Hill, did a good job blocking, and also other receivers. Got to give it to Keith Kirkwood and Austin Carr, who did a really good job here. But it was really Ingram, Kamara, Thomas, and then Kirkwood and Austin Carr. Traquan Smith didn't really do anything. That's kind of disappointment, but we'll see what he can do in the future. But really good job from them there. A lot of the second half was just running the ball anyways with Ingram and Kamara, and later with Dwayne Washington. But I think a good job between, the whole skill position group. I think they played basically almost a flawless game here. No drops, none of that stuff. Obviously, Breeze did an amazing job throwing them open sometimes. Amazing throw to Michael Thomas, where Michael Thomas made an amazing catch in the end zone on the first touchdown, but just a really good job there. Offensive line, another amazing week. No sacks given up. Against a pretty good defensive line with Geno Atkins, with Dunlap. But no pressures really. I think only 1 or 2. Armstead played good until he got hurt, and then Bushrod came in there and was basically flawless. A really good job there. Also, Andrews Pete had an amazing block on Ingram's screen for a touchdown. Amazing job there. Max Unger was solid. Larry Walford had some really nice blocks where he got to the second level on a couple of Ingram runs. And then also, you got to look at Ryan Ramczyk, who's really, really good there. If I were the Saints, you may want to move Ramczyk to left tackle and then move Bushrod to right tackle. If Armstead was out long term, you may do that. But I think just for the one game, putting Bushrod there is fine for me. And I think Breeze is comfortable with Bushrod, so I think it's fine to have him there. So now on to the defensive side, where defense played really strong. Really only 1 touchdown on the first drive, and the rest of the game they didn't give up anything, just a Garbo touchdown with backups in. So I'm not even going to really talk about that, but you got to talk about the defensive line. Got to give them an A to even an A, really an A, not an A+ because they didn't play out of this world amazing, but they played A amazing. So you got to give it to, Cameron Jordan had a sack. Sheldon Rankins had a really good sack. He was bowling rushers over. It was an amazing sack. Got to look at Alexander Loney had just where he mauled Andy Dalton on a great sack there. And then also Alex Okafor and David Onyemata both had half a sack. That's obviously really good stuff there. Onyemata had a tackle for loss. This team, they played very, very strong. The whole defensive line, they stopped Mixon pretty well, especially really after that first drive, they stopped Mixon very good. So, got to give it to the defensive line there. They played a really good game. Really no complaints. A lot of good stuff. Really good job getting to Andy Dalton. Made Andy Dalton feel uncomfortable. And, this defensive line's finally coming around, playing really good now, getting to the quarterback. Hit scary, and to have Marcus Davenport coming back, I mean, they're just licking their chops, trying to get to the QB, and they played a really good game here against Cincy. The linebackers, I mean, got to give them an A performance. They played really good. I mentioned Anzalone's sack. Just amazing job from him. He's playing really good this year, so you got to give it off to him. To Mario Davis, another really good game. He had 5 tackles. He had half a tackle loss, so he played really good there. Got to give it to him. He's played good. He's been really good. And then also A.J. Klein continuing a really good season. He was good as well. So, I mean, again, they stopped the run really well. Also, they stopped the tight end, C.J. Uzomah, everyone's, not everyone, but the Cincinnati thought that they were going to give it to their tight end more, but he was not open because our linebackers were covering really good. Also, you got to give it to the safeties back there. And next week, that's going to be a big test with Zach Ertz. Now, on to the secondary here, and they played really good. Going to give them a B+ because they did get gashed a few times in the first drive. Take out that first drive, I'd give them an A, but obviously got to add that first drive in there, so that goes them down to a B+. I think it was their best game all year. I mean, maybe you can squeak out an A- for them, but B+, A-, really good job. They played extremely solid. Got to give it to Marshawn Lattimore, whose name wasn't even called because they didn't even throw it to him, really. Also, Eli Apple had the pick, a really good pick there. Marcus Williams with the pick, as I said before. Von Bell played good. Kirk Coleman's still not playing up to his standards, but, each week he's getting a little better. But still, I mean, that signing it's not turning out to be a good signing, but it's not killing us, so it doesn't really matter there. It's just made Von Bell get a lot more playing time, and he's done a really good job. So I think that's really, really big for him. I mean, he's having a career year. P.J. Williams played really good, as I said before, locking down that slot, with Alex Erickson. I know, they don't really have great slot receivers or anything, but P.J. Williams played good. Yeah, I mean, they played good. So the whole defense, really overall, this team got an A+. And special teams, not really much special teams. They weren't really on the field that much. But you got to give them an A+ there with the coaching because Sean Payton coached them amazing, got them ready to play, even had to punch the fire alarm. So, got them ready to play. He was worried that playing for 1 o'clock they'd come out sluggish. Well, that was not the case. They played amazing right out of the gate. Not a wire-to-wire victory because we were tied at one point, but we never, we're losing in this game, so that's obviously, a big thing there. Just really good stuff here. When you win 14, that's just amazing stuff. 35 points in the first half. That ties the record from last week, which I know I messed up that stat during the video, but it was 35 points again. That ties last week, which is a record. So, I mean, amazing stuff there. So we now have only one question. It was by a lot of people, but we only have one question, and it was, what do you really think of Brandon Marshall signing? What do you think was going to happen after Dez got hurt, and like all that stuff? So obviously we talked about the Brandon Marshall signing, and just really that whole situation, but let's go a little on it, about like 2 more minutes, just see like where will Brandon Marshall fit in this offense, and I think he's going to fit in that slot or to the outside in the red zone, but I think he can actually be a good slot guy as well, especially, possession receivers. Maybe he'll come in on 3rd down, just a big body receiver. The Saints think he's still athletic. That's why they brought him in. They were actually really impressed with his workout. So, I mean, look, when Sean Payton's impressed by a player, I mean, it obviously means good stuff. So that's obviously, good things for him. I think he's a really good receiver. He's had some really good years. And, he could be a player that, helps us win a couple more games maybe. But I don't think, as I said before, I don't think we needed another receiver to, bring us to where we need to go. I think it makes this team better, so I'll sign off on it, like I said. And I think it's a good signing. I mean, about an average. It could be really good. It could not be good. And then we just cut him. But, I mean, it's got high, value here if he's really good. If he's not that good, it's just you cut him. It's not a big deal. So, I mean, it's good. I mean, a lot of players, they're going to respect him just like they respected Dez. So that's obviously another big thing there. But, I think that just wraps up our talk, with Brandon Marshall. I think he could be a really good receiver for this team. He's going to probably do what Dez did. And, it's just, getting into it, giving him a role that where, he's not lost in the shuffle, but, he's not, taking too many targets. But I think, another receiver is going to help out Michael Thomas. I really do. I don't think it's going to hurt him. I think having another receiver really will help him because now less coverage will go to Thomas. More will go to another receiver, especially if Brandon Marshall, succeeds as, being a good number 2 or number 3 guy. I mean, I think we did kind of need another receiver, but I think we could have got by with having, Thomas, When Ted Ginn comes back, and then you have Traquan Smith, Keith Kirkwood, Austin Carr. I think Keith Kirkwood, could be really solid in the same role that Brandon Marshall's doing. But obviously, Sean Payton saw something in Brandon Marshall to give us, the extra receiver. He liked Brandon Marshall. He was actually thinking of bringing Brandon Marshall and Des Bryant on. So, you could see how much Sean Payton thinks of these guys. I'm just hoping Brandon Marshall doesn't give any jinxes to us and, no bad vibes. I don't think he will, and I think he'll be a good receiver for us. But, I think he just wants to play in the playoffs. I really do. So, I don't think that will happen to us, the jinx. But I think he may get his first, playoff appearance, first playoffs as a player, which is, it's good for him. And I'm happy he's getting this opportunity. And let's just not hope he gets injured on the second practice like Des Bryant is. Also, another kind of little sad news I just want to get him before the episode is over. Des Bryant is open to coming back to the Saints in 2019, and the Saints are hoping to bring in Des Bryant back. So in the offseason, definitely look out for that. I mean, we're during the season, so we're not going to really talk about the offseason, but I think that's something to look out for, in March or April when it comes down and Des Bryant wants to sign with someone. I think we'd be at the top of his list there. So with all that said, I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. If you like this episode and you like this podcast and you haven't followed us on our various accounts, you can follow us on Twitter at the Who Dat Dis, on Instagram at Who Dat Discussion, on Podomatic at the Who Dat Discussion, and then also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Google Play channel, our iTunes channel, and our Spotify channel. And on those sites, we are at the Who Dat Discussion on there. On all those sites, please like, comment, rate us, and review us. It just really helps me, connect with other people, see how we're doing and what we need to maybe do a little better or what we're doing great. It's just great to hear from the Who Dat Nation. I love connecting with the Who Dat Nation. This is why we started this podcast, and, for it to come, this far, our just last Twitter post got over 150 likes, got a lot of comments, and, was talking to a lot of, fans, and it's just, it's great stuff. So I'm just very, very happy, with, obviously the team I'm very happy with has, we're 8-1, but just how this podcast has grown, I'm just very happy with, and I just can't say thank you enough to the Who Dat Nation. So, we are now 8-1, 8-game winning streak. Can't wait for next week's game against the Eagles. Our next episode will be Friday, but we'll break down and preview that game. Hopefully, Brandon Marshall will be able to play, so we get to talk about him. The Eagles, they just had Ronald Darby go on IR with a torn ACL, so they won't have him against us, but, I really feel like, we're playing really hot. And, to really pick against us, I don't think you really can at this point how good this team has played. So with all that said, I wanted to say thank you, prove them right, and Who Dat?
KK, you are a savior.